All right. And I think we are good here. We refresh this.
I look like I have a gremlin in the back. It's so dark.
Well, we're live, finally. So, due to technical difficulties, here we are. only about 45 minutes later. That's seems to be the way it goes. And I got a brand new mic for all of this, and that's off because I thought maybe that's it. But
I was seriously considering the thought that I needed to like sage my phone because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, apparently I need to do something in this office because something's going on here. So I'm super excited since, you and I have gotten to be really, really good friends. I mean, I would definitely say you are one of the closest people to me over the last like 2.5 years. So with that, I will let you introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself.
So, well, first, you're right, because honestly, you're like family at this point. So I'm Celtic Cherokee. I'm a spiritual mentor, and I've been in the online industry. Well, I've been in the online industry for 12 years teaching witchcraft and paganism. But as a coach, it's been what, 2.5 years now. And one of the biggest things like I start everybody out with is intuition, because it doesn't matter what your spiritual path, it doesn't matter. You could be atheist, you could believe in absolutely nothing. And having that voice within yourself and being able to connect with it and listen to it is the first step to any kind of healing, any kind of spiritualism, all of it. Like that voice is my best friend, has been for years. So a lot of my coaching focuses on that, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, well, and that's where I love, because like over, the last 20 plus years with, first really getting familiar with my intuition, with that, gut feeling and like that pull and, the voices in my head. And it didn't always start off where I listened, because I had no idea what was happening. And so for me, like, starting off that, that journey when I first started working with you was really fun, because it's, the exercise that you had me do and, basically following turns and everything, and like where I ended up, there was a lot of things that triggered on that day that were really, really cool. Like just the thought processes. But, for me, where that was like, 20 plus years ago would have been really helpful, because in turn, I thought that I was crazy. I thought that, like these feelings that, what is that? And so getting to learn more about that is so imperative to, just everyday life, like learning how to actually listen and either implement what it's saying, what you're feeling, what it's saying, like what, like for me, what I hear, and being able to follow that has been everything over the last few years, because like now, I really feel like I have it there, but then there's those times that I'm like, oh, you want me to do what? Like, okay.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, because we're women, like if men, like big CEOs, right? Because I have a background in business, they follow their gut instinct and have these wildly successful businesses, and they're admired for it. And it's like pat on the back, like you followed your gut instinct, you're good at it. But really that's the same thing as your intuition. And we as women, due to things like patriarchal society and religion and all these different things, we're told we're crazy and we're emotional. Like, don't listen to that. You shouldn't listen to it, when we say intuition. But really, it's the exact same thing as gut instinct. because that is what your intuition is. It is your gut telling you, don't go down that dark alley. Ted Bundy's waiting at the end of it. Like, it's there to protect us. It's there to lead us. But we are taught in our society, we are crazy for listening to it. So if you can like step outside of that and know that you're not crazy, or at least give it a try, it can wildly change your world.
Well, and that's where, that going down the dark alley, like for me, one of the first times where, I really truly remember, and that's because of the trauma and what that's triggered and that emotional like hold on this memory is, walking down the street, pushing my 13-month-old daughter, feeling like, and I'm just in a normal neighborhood, feeling like something was wrong and something was off. And I'm looking around going, no, but everything's fine. But in my head, it was like, oh, somebody could grab me, pull me in their house, and nobody else would ever know. And okay, well, I'm feeling that and going, you know what, maybe I should turn around. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. And, then when what ended up happening and like, seeing this person come towards me, having them put their arm around me, having the knife to my side and going, oh, like, and not in that moment, but after, like, all those feelings weren't crazy. Like, they were trying to tell me something. They were trying to like give, some type of clue, even if like it wasn't, like a shape of what actually took place, because that I felt what was coming next. And, like that in turn, like learning over time, how many times that's actually saved me because I've listened, like that, more of that understanding, like working with you and being able to understand more of what is taking place helped me understand too, like, there were things that took place that helped me walk through a situation where all throughout the day it was like, oh nope, don't sit here,
right,
or, go over here with your friends, or oh, don't leave yet, like all of that kind of stuff that like in turn, I listened to, because I got to have that better understanding that there was more going on there. And
right. And I mean, honestly, like, I mean, for any, most people probably already have heard my story like 100 times, but, growing up in the background I did with my parents and in a cult and in abusive relationships, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for listening to those nudges, whether that was as a child or, I mean, because honestly, for as much as my upbringing was like, that's the devil, don't listen to that, I never really can remember a time I didn't listen, at least try to listen to my intuition. And of course, there's been times I've ignored it and made the stupid decisions, but like I never really, it was just always there for me. And I literally felt like my best friend. And I survived so much trauma in my childhood because of it. And listening to that nudge of like, don't do that, go this way, or even just the voice of like, we'll survive it, just make it another day.
yeah,
Just get through that next day. And part of listening to that though, which I think probably gets missed for a lot of people, is you also have to let go of the control of the result. Because sometimes when you're getting the nudge, you're not getting the, well, why are we doing that?
yeah.
It looks crazy, but there is a bigger picture and there is something waiting for you at the end of that road that's better for you. You just have to listen to it. So you have to let go of the control of the result too. And when you can let go of that, it's much easier to listen to, because that's what part of what makes us question it,
Yeah.
right? Is, we want this one thing. And it's like, well, if I listen to that, it's going to take me a completely different way, and the fear of the unknown. And I don't know where I'm going. But your intuition is never going to tell you to do something that's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like, it might be uncomfortable, the decision you make, but it's not anything that's going to hurt you in the long term.
Which is so important, because like, I mean, that goes with anything, like, that letting go of that control of what we need an outcome to look like versus what we're feeling and going towards something, because we know, like, and that's on so many different levels, whether that's that nudge of like danger, whether that's that nudge of like, hey, there's something more coming towards you, just like trust, and that sometimes that trust, like I had some thoughts earlier today driving about like that trust, like, ultimately one of the best things that we can ever do for ourselves in life is trusting ourselves, is trusting us, and that feeling, and trusting in that feeling, and being able to decipher between that feeling and that intuitive pull versus like what our ego is telling us to, like, hey, like, no, don't do that. But there is a difference, and like I know that difference because I can feel it in my core, because I've gotten to know the feeling a lot better now. And so for me, like, that ego going in a different direction feels like resistance coming up, and I can feel that in my body. I can feel like, that things just don't flow when I'm listening to the ego versus when I'm listening to my intuition and going towards that. When I listen to my intuition, even though there's like, oh my gosh, you want, like I said earlier, like, you want me to do what? Like, doing this here. Like, it was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to do that. And then I start doing everything. I have the date set, and it's like, what? Like, now I've got to like actually do it.
Right.
But then like within, 24 hours of doing the first one, there's already been so many incredible things that have taken place that it's just like, oh, I get it now.
Right. Well, and honestly, even, I mean, like I run, and this, like I run my entire business off of intuition. Like it's very intuitive based. And I don't just say that in like a frilly unicorns and rainbows kind of way, but like when I launched my business, I mean, I'd been, Ravenna, I had been, kind of traversing the arena of coaching for a little bit. And then just one day, against what everybody was saying, like, don't launch the holidays, don't launch like this, just put it out there. Like one post, Christmas Eve. And it was like, everything followed from there. Wow. And it's been successful from there. And, so I very much, obviously there's some logic, and I do have business experience and stuff, but at the end of the day, I go with my gut. Yeah. I go with what my instinct says. And when it feels right, that's the time to do it. That's how I go live. It's how I do everything, which honestly, that's probably what happened with this technical difficulties tonight. It was too planned out.
Yeah. So on that, like, I would say too, like, I obviously am a lover of potential. Bob's house. Where the name for this came from is, I believe that within us is that infinite amount of potential. And so I believe that, our intuition is that higher version of ourselves saying, hey, yes, that this is your potential. Like and like you said, I'm not going to give you anything or tell you anything that I don't think you could handle, because, we is me, like that is me. And so with that, what would you say as far as potential goes, that a story that first comes up of a time that, or a story that somebody would hear and go, oh my gosh, you've been through that. Like, I can't believe that. Like, I had no idea, that shows that amount of potential that you've put out there?
Gosh, I don't know. Like I hear that like so much with different stories of like, God, I don't know how you did that.
What's the first thing that comes up? Because I know
honestly,
it's there.
The first one that probably comes up, which is not one I talk about a whole lot, is my days in corporate. We had moved out of state on a complete and total whim. Like, and that was all me. I was pushing my ex-husband, like, we're doing this and we're doing it now. We took $500 and what we could load in a 2-door Mercury Cougar with 2 kids under the age of 5, and took off for Texas. No jobs, no prospects, no nothing, but to just get the hell out of Kentucky. Within 24 hours, I told him, I was like, go to this little town, because we'd both lived in Texas before. I was like, go to this town. We both know this town, like, and we'll just see what's there. The first turn he made was an auto mechanic shop that had a now hiring sign out. They hired him for cash that day. And within, a couple of weeks, we had built back up to an apartment and all of these things. And then not long after that, just to have insurance, I took a job with Starbucks, and I have a background in fast food. And so they hired me for that. Within About a year, I kept telling my ex-husband, I was like, it's just for the insurance. I'm not doing it. I'm not going full time. I'm not doing that crap of climbing the ladder again. I'm not doing it. And my gut just kept like, it was pushing me, like somebody standing behind me, pushing me up the ladder. And I was like, fuck. And within a year, I had a store manager position, and then I was going for district manager. So like that entire period of not just my life, but his life too, was solely based on making an intuitive decision.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were married for 10 years. And for about 7 of that, we had the cars and the houses and the jobs and all the things that we wouldn't have had here in Kentucky. So all of that was like, there was so much potential in that decision, and he couldn't see it. And I had no clue where it was taking us.
Yeah.
I just knew, like, for this to work, for us to have better lives, we need to do this. So that's honestly the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that, following it and just going, hey, like, you know, I am very much, you know, that person that's like, hey, I'm just gonna, like, spontaneous, what looks very
Right.
spontaneous, but there was something that was nudging it there going, no, there's more underneath than just that, you know, yes, I'm spontaneous, and yes, sometimes I, you know, act. And, you know, like I was saying, you know, recently on another podcast, was like, there's not any regrets there, but sometimes maybe I should think a little bit further before I act. But that action puts forth so much, and, you know, we end up growing so much from that. And that's where, like, I mean, how I ended up in Vegas, like, it was a very quick decision. And, you know, in hindsight, it was like, I can't believe you did that. Like, you know, here I am 19 years old and just decide, yep, I'm going to up and move. And, you know, I had clothes in the car, $300 check. And the rest was like, okay, I'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
Didn't intend on staying here and still being here, but here I am. And, you know, what's unfolded after that has been incredible. So it's just following that can lead to so many absolutely incredible things. And for me, like, I know that staying in San Diego, my life would have been a whole different life. Like, as far as like where I am, you know, ultimately, I think we come back and we have those paths that keep trying to lead us to a certain place. And, you know, the whole free will / you know, like, stuff that's destined for you, which is a whole nother conversation. But with that, like, it's crazy because what I've been able to do here versus being able to do there just all came from following that same type of like, you know, I'm gonna go.
Right. And I can very much say, for as many times as following that saved me in different ways, that moment where I was like, look, we're doing this, we have to do it. My life, I don't know that I would still be here because of things that were going on with my first husband and just so much. I can't say that I would still be here. And I have ended up back in Kentucky, of course, but at that point in my life, it definitely saved me. And probably my daughter as well, my oldest daughter. And I can say it probably saved her too. And, you know, I also very much believe that the universe, or whatever you believe in, rewards you for that trust.
Yeah.
Like, when we take that moment and we fully give up the control and we just go with it, I do believe we are rewarded for it. And sometimes the path might be rocky and a little difficult, but if you can hike to the end of the trail, the view is really beautiful.
I totally agree. Like, anytime that, like, things seem, if I'm in a place of doubt of any type, you know, I'm also very much a science person, and I will probably mention that on every podcast, like, that I follow those, and, you know, the things will stand out. Like, when I'm in that doubt place, all of a sudden there's, you know, something standing out to go, nope, you're right where you're supposed to be. You're on that path. You are there already. You know, everything that I can see with being that dreamer mentality, it's already there. And it's just connecting to it and, following that and going like, hey, like that trust in, what I'm doing and where we're going and, what's going next, that anytime that the things don't seem to work out, or is that time where I push against it and I decide that like,
Right.
no, I'm going to go over there.
Right.
Dead. And then like looking back at all of these different times where like these opportunities were there, or I was gifted with an idea and would get so excited about the idea, and then I wouldn't do anything with it, and then I would see it out there in 5 different places pretty quickly. And that's just it. Like, we're not the only ones getting those same
Right.
gifts.
Did you see, Mom?
And so it's up to us to either, I firmly believe it is up to us to either accept it. It would be a smoke detector.
It's not beeping.
I tell you what, it's a night, isn't it?
We are meant to talk. We're just meant to be through some rock paths, like literally proving everything we're talking about. Like,
Right.
like, hey, what other challenges can we throw at you today and have you persevere through? Just throw them all out at once. Like, so where was I? But so following that and like following those nudges, because like when we come back, with those ideas, like those ideas are gifts. And for me, I believe that like, hey, if it's an idea that I don't think I'm ready for, I'm going to sit there and say, okay, hey, I thank you for this idea and I appreciate this, but I release this to someone else.
Right.
Or I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with this and I'm going to put this out there. And, for me, again, like it's just that running motion of I'm going to do what I feel. And was talking about that today. It's just like that motion of, meeting my wife, like that. All that was, hey, I'm going to go put myself on a dating app, start talking to somebody. I'm going to go out on a date. And I'm just going to do it. Like there was not any more thought to it besides that, because if I put more thought to it, then I'm going to talk myself out of doing it.
Right. Very much. And I mean, I think I truly believe there is not an avenue of your life that you cannot apply listening to your intuition to, whether that's relationships, business, jobs, careers, kids, all of it. Like, that thing where kids say that, mom has eyes in the back of her head, that's your intuition. Mm-hmm. Like it's your connection. And it's just that as moms, we're more in tune with that because it comes to our kids. The rest of the stuff we ignore, like, oh, you're crazy, don't do that. But we pay attention to it when it comes to our kids. And even in even, in relationships, a lot of times we get that, like, whatever you want to call it, a red flag. But even then it's our intuition, whether it's good or bad. Yeah. Oh, he's cheating, or oh, I should go on this date and it's something I would never have done before in my life, but I'm going to run with it and see where it goes. Like, again, it's never really going to put you in danger. And the ways that it can save your life is not just, I think when I say that, probably a lot of people think like, oh, it saved me from being murdered or it saved me from being raped. And it has, but it's also saved me in ways like Kentucky is not known for people making great money here. Yeah. And, being able to start a business when I found myself back up here again, that saved me. Running with that idea and running with that nudge has probably saved us from a lot of probably poverty that goes on a lot here. And so there's so many different ways that it can save your life, whether that's your mental health or, as a single mom. Like when I left my first husband, I did that completely against all odds. Like I was 20 and it was against my parents' beliefs, their religion. Like I had no support system, but I was like, the nagging thought I kept having is if I don't leave one of us is going to die, regardless of how that was. And he was abusive, and I did it.
Ribbit.
And it was hard, but it was very much worth it. And I look back now, and I would have either ended up in prison trying to protect my daughter, or I'd be dead now. And I have no doubt about that. So there's so many different ways that you can say that it saved your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. What would you say is a way that somebody who is just starting out, learning to listen to their intuition, what is something that you suggest for them that they could start that intuition listening journey?
One of the first things that I usually tell people is you can even do something even outside of the intuition journey that you were talking about earlier. You can start with something as simple as, honestly, the easiest way is you've got to define what's your fear and what is your intuition. So sitting down and thinking about a decision you have to make, like maybe it's, do I pay the electric bill this week or do I pay the water bill this week? Let's just say that, because that's a struggle for a lot of people, deciding what bill to pay what week. And you sit down, and where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel it? Is it a voice? Sometimes for me, it's a voice, and sometimes it's a feeling. Other time, for other people, like you said earlier, it's voices. Mm-hmm. And most of the time when you feel it in your gut, and it's just like this magnetic pull, that's your intuition. And if you can start paying attention to decisions you make or situations you encounter on a daily basis, jot it down in your phone. You ain't got to pack a journal around everywhere. Jot it down in your phone. Did you feel that magnetic pull to go to Walmart? I used to practice it. This will sound so silly. I used to practice it with thrift stores. I would be coming home from work and randomly get this feeling like, oh, I need to stop by the Goodwill. No reason, didn't really need to, but I would just walk around. I would just let it lead me. And it very much, like I said, for me is a magnetic pull. Yeah. And I would just walk around where it led me. Like, did I need to go over here and look at this? And usually 9 times out of 10, it was pretty accurate. And there would be, I don't know, like some witchy item I was needing for my collection, a lot of times for thrift stores. Or I might find this, I don't know, like one time I found this microwave oven we had been looking for. And so even following your intuition in that way and just starting, because it's really simple. You're not putting yourself in any kind of danger. You're not risking any kind of financial distress or anything like that. If you wake up tomorrow and you feel the pull to go get a coffee and go get a cookie and sit and people watch, do it. Mm-hmm. There's a reason. There's some sign that's meant for you to see that day. There's something that is meant for you. And just follow it. If you can start trusting it in those very small ways, then it becomes easier to follow it in the bigger ways. Yeah. And it becomes easier to define what's fear and what's intuition, because most of the time it's our fear stopping us. Our logical brain is going, wait, danger, don't do that. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. That's not rational. You have to tell that to take a back seat. So I would say if you wanted to start, like right now, pick a day, tomorrow, wake up, and what's that first thought? Is it go get coffee? Obviously don't like skip work to go get coffee, but what is, because there is a difference between I want to do that and my intuition's telling me to do that. But there are small things like that you can do. Walk around the thrift store, see where you're led. Walk around town. Is there a place that you've never been to before in your town that keeps popping in your head? Like, maybe I should go do that. Go do it. Yeah. Go see what's in store for you there. While you're there doing the thing, start paying attention to what you see.
Ribbit.
Well, now I want to go to thrift stores right now. Not right at this moment.
I still do that. Like, I'll be driving around and like, I really feel like I want to go to Goodwill's the big one here. We don't have a whole lot of them. And I really feel like I should go to Goodwill. And I'm like, I don't need anything though. And
Ribbit.
I mean, I've been looking for a camper for how long? And like to the point I had given up. And the other day I just had this urge to look on Facebook Marketplace, and I don't really shop there. I was like, all right, screw it. So I opened Facebook Marketplace, and like the third camper down was one that I could afford and exactly the size I needed.
Ribbit.
And so I snatched that bitch up. But like, had I, in that, even just that small moment, had I not followed that nudge, it would have passed me by.
Ribbit.
Yeah.
Ribbit.
I love that.
Ribbit.
Like, I mean, you and I know that our conversations like this could go on forever. But on that note, where can people find you?
Facebook, I pretty much do everything on Facebook. I do have a TikTok and an Instagram. All of those places you can find me with my name, Celtic Cherokee. I hit and miss on TikTok, but pretty much everything I teach, everything I talk about, all of that you can find on Facebook. And I do share it to Instagram sometimes. And my door is always open. I have an open door policy. So I'm not a pushy. I'm not a car salesman. Like, I don't like selling that way. And if you have questions, you know, like, what do I do? How do I do this? Like, just reach out. Don't ever be afraid, because I'm not just going to like try to sell you something you don't want. So open door.
Can attest to that one. All right. I'm going to say, like, this has been great after we finally got it going. Barring alarms and audio and everything else. Like, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I was so excited. I can't wait till we do this again, and I know that the next time we'll go off without a hitch.
Yes. Yes. We're just going to manifest that shit.
Yep. Well, let's say bye, everybody.